afternoon, everyone. Wow, so we ended off with a pledge. I embrace continuous learning. So I'm going to embrace that continuous learning. You see, on the way here, I was at the hotel. And every time I go to speak in a new country, I want to learn a phrase. And so I asked the receptionist, how do you say good afternoon in Maldivian? Please don't say it first, let me try. And if I make a mistake, just clap anyway. Is that all right? So I'm going to try in the spirit. So, Baca Veri Mendre. Good afternoon. I'm super thankful and honored to be here. Thank you, Afif and the team, for inviting me. Now, how many of you have learned at least 3 things from today's conference? Just raise your hand. Oh, more than, right? And how many of you are going to take something you have learned today and apply it? Okay, take this hand and give yourself a pat on the shoulder, because learning without application means learning just stays in this room. And I think you'll agree with me that you want to take it beyond this room into your organizations and make a difference. So today I'm here to share with you about positive leadership. But I want to start with a story of somebody that I met in the course of my work. Her name is Linda. Before I go into a story, one more question, or maybe 2. We all love questions here, don't we? How many of you think it's important that when somebody comes to work, that they find fulfillment, meaning, and joy? Yes? Awesome. I see more than 90%. But you also know that when people come to work, they also face challenges. Yes? So I'm not here as a positive psychologist, or Afif knows me as the first happiness scientist in Singapore, to tell you that we only talk about joy and meaning, but not about the challenges that we face. And that's where Linda's story comes in. I met Linda in the course of my work, and she was a middle manager in L&D. No coincidence that I'm telling you this story. And she was in a very technical industry, and they had hired her to come up with a new framework. But the entire environment felt very anti-L&D. I don't know if some of you have felt that before, but that was the point in her career where I met her. And she recounted this story in her former workplace. She was sitting at her desk, working on something, when she saw someone standing next to her. She looked up, and it was her boss. And he said, "Linda, I need to see you in my office." After he walked away, Linda's throat started to cramp up. She started to feel that the sweat was running down her back. And she thought, was it the presentation that I did last week? Because she had just done one last week and it bombed, or at least in her opinion, it did. And then she thought again, was it the report that I had submitted? They hired me to come up with this L&D framework, and I submitted a report. Maybe he didn't like it. All these thoughts were running through her head. So you can imagine that by the time she reached the boss's door and knocked on it, she was drenched in sweat in all of her back. You see, this wasn't her first time hearing this phrase, "I need to speak to you, Linda." It had happened before. And in that circumstance, she had designed something and was told, "This is too radical. This is too different." Someone earlier said about psychological safety, Renuka, taking risks to try something new. She did, but the boss's reply was, "Toe the line, do what you're told." And so you can imagine she was there, shaking. She went into the door and the boss said, "Hey, Linda, take a seat." Reluctantly, she took a seat. And he asked, "How are you?" She did not even dare to look him in the eye for fear that she would feel the same feeling she did the time before. And she didn't answer. And he said again, "Hey, I noticed that you have been working really hard in the last few weeks to churn out that report that you had given to me. I just wanted to see how you're doing. Linda froze for a very different reason this time. Did he just say that he wanted to check in on me? Is he gonna come around and tell me something bad about me? All the thoughts start running in her mind once again. The leader continued, "It must be hard to manage everything that you have, given that you are also a caregiver to 2 young children at home." Suddenly, there was a lightness in Linda's heart. Someone seems to understand me, but there was also a bit of caution because she wasn't sure if this was real. In the end, she sat in the office for 5 minutes having a chat with her boss and walked out of there not feeling this, which was that first experience, but more feeling this. Now, statistics show over and over again, and this one is from Forbes, that managers have a profound impact on an ability for a team member or an employee to perform. Performance is impacted by well-being. I'm a positive psychologist, and if you want someone to perform well, they've got to feel good. And managers contribute to 70% of the mental health. Further statistics show that employees would like their managers to know a bit more about how to further support their mental health. So I'm here to share with you just 3 ways using positive leadership principles and practices. But whenever I show this term positive leadership, people often ask me, why do you need to put a positive in front of everything? Positive psychology, positive emotion, positive education. Isn't leadership supposed to help people to learn and grow and develop, just like what we're all here? But let's go a little bit deeper in understanding what exactly this is. Kim Cameron, who was one of my teachers at the University of Pennsylvania, defines positive leadership as being able to have employees come to work, thrive, and flourish, do great work, and be more productive. You see, there is this myth that when you are happy, maybe you don't do good work, or that it's very frivolous and nothing really gets done because you're spending too much time having fun. But I'm here to tell you it's not either or. You can do well and feel good at the same time. Does that sound good, everyone? Yes. Yeah. And so if we were to look at this definition, people have higher levels of energy and achieve levels of effectiveness, which is actually what we all want in all the organizations that you come from. Now, what exactly does this look like in terms of a framework? Psychologists, we love frameworks. But this is something really practical that we can use. First, we want to think of it as a positive climate. I think this word abundance was said earlier as well. How can we, in our workplaces, create a culture of abundance where people are willing to share their learning, apply, and learn from each other? How can we create a positive relationships between people where there are energy networks? Energy is intangible, but we feel it very strongly. How's the energy in this room? Great, right? Everyone's buzzing, everyone's learning, everyone wants something. Nobody needs to come in and talk about it, but we feel it. Energy lives in us. And if we learn how to do that in our workplaces, so much more can happen. Positive communication, how do we talk to people in a way that motivates and engages them and makes them want to do the things that you want them to do? That's the magic key, right? Otherwise, we're always this go, 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 cheerleader. But what if that cheering could come from inside, more self-directed? Positive communication is something I'm going to spend a lot of time on today. And last of all, positive meaning. People come to work for various reasons. Some people come to work because, of course, they need a job, they want to put food on the table. But many of the people that you work with likely come to work because they have goals. They want to find meaning and purpose. They have professional goals and personal goals. And so when we think about positive leadership, this framework can give you some guidance on how to do it. And to make things really practical, I want to share with you just 3 key things that you can do. Encourage the leaders in your organizations to do the moment you walk out of here. First, practice empathy. We've heard a lot about that, but I want to give you specific phrases that you can use. In my work as a speaker and a coach, I often get people telling me, I'm already empathetic. but they don't think so. And I will ask them, well, what did you say? And they said, good job, when they did something well. Now that's well and good, but let's go a little bit deeper and let's look into some of those phrases. Perspective taking. And finally, focusing on strengths. So empathy, many people confuse empathy with sympathy. Yes? What's the key difference? So sympathy looks something like this. Your employee comes to you and says, there's something I don't know how to do. And you're like, okay, well, you know that book that we have? You go read it. You are supporting, but it doesn't feel like there's a connection. Empathy is, I don't know what to do. And the leader says, well, sounds like you're struggling with that. How can I be of a support to you? You see, sympathy creates distance. Empathy creates connection. And if we are able to create connection, we strengthen the relationship, we strengthen the climate in the organizations. I mean, we're all here to learn how to recharge our organization, and it must start with recharging the internal system of how people feel, how the energy is flowing, right? And so practicing empathy, these are some good phrases you can use. Well, I can see you working really hard on that, and I appreciate all your efforts. Let's work together to figure out how we can get through this. How about the second one? It sounds like that meeting today left you a little confused. What are some resources that you might need? Or is there any way that I could help you with this? Notice that it is collaborative. Notice that it is co-creating. And how about the last one? I understand you may be feeling frustrated when things don't go as planned. You know, something that we sometimes make mistakes with is when people come to us and they're struggling, we tend to jump in with solutions. How many of you do that? Yes. The rest of you not raising hand because you have done it too many times. Right? It's true, because we, especially in L&D, you are trained to look at how to solve problems. But sometimes all people need is to know that they are not alone. And so part of that is about listening. What are we actually listening for? Are we listening simply to the top of the iceberg, the content? Or are we listening to what's below the iceberg? What are some assumptions that have been made? What are some needs that are there that haven't been met? What are their motivations? Just because they're not doing something, does it mean they don't care about the work? More often than not, I found that when people don't do something, it's not that they don't care about the work, it's that they can't find the relevance why they need to do it. So earlier, some of you were talking about buy-in. Relevance creates buy-in. Of course, your program has to be good, and I'm sure all of you are developing great programs. But if we can make that connection with them, you'll find that we meet their motivational needs, we reduce the assumptions, and it shows that we care. So the first strategy we say, practice empathy, is actually, I hear you. Can we do this together? I just want you to do this and turn to the person next to you and say, I hear you. Yeah, it sounds like something really simple, but people want to be heard. Okay. So let's move on to perspective taking. Let's take a look at this image. Is it a 6? Or is it a 9? Who's right? They're both right, but they're still arguing. The truth is, with perspectives, it depends on where you're standing. It depends on how you're looking at it. And so in this case, they're both right. So one of the ways we can think about positive communication and leadership is to really get good at something called perspective taking. Just now, there was a lot of mention by Andy on multi-generational. Many of the speakers today have talked about that as well. Perspective taking is the key to really being able to understand why do different generations work in different ways. In my family, I have 4 generations in one roof. I'm at the cusp of a millennial. My husband is a Gen Y. My 15-year-old is, what is she? Gen Z. And then my 10-year-old is a Gen Alpha. I don't know how I communicate with them every day. but somehow we make it work by taking perspective. And what exactly is perspective taking? Proactively thinking about, hey, what's going on with that person? What is the emotions that's happening there? What is the mindset? And the more we become aware, now this doesn't mean we need to take their perspective and make it ours. We just need to be aware of it, so that when we communicate with them, they can feel that we see them. Perspective taking is about, I see you. Can you turn to your partner and say, I see you? Yeah. And so when we think about that question, the main question we should be asking is, if I were in his or her position, what would I be experiencing? What is going through my mind? Now here again are some steps that you can take. I keep it really practical with the actual phrases that you can use. The first is listen to understand. Very simple phrases. I want to make sure I understand your perspective, right? How are you seeing it? Or what are your thoughts on this matter? The next is clarify for clarity. Now let me ask you a question. If you are confused when someone asks you to do something, will you take action? No, you'll just stay there. Confusion breeds stagnation. But if you are clear, it is more likely that you will take some actions forward. And the goal with perspective taking is not to say that I know you inside out, but that I am understanding you better by talking to you. And because of that, we can work better together and create that positive climate. So phrases like, if I understand you correctly, or when you say you're not sure how to do that, what exactly do you mean? Clarity allows people to move forward. Clarity impacts performance. Clarity allows us to learn better. And the last bit is reduce or avoid assumptions. Now this is particularly important when giving feedback. It's very easy to give positive feedback, yes? What do you all say when you give positive feedback? Good job? Awesome? I see a shake here. What do you say? You say it more. You get where I'm coming from. And sometimes we do have to deliver challenging feedback, especially all of you in L&D, HR, right? HR. You could say it this way so that we don't trigger the defenses of the person receiving it. For example, I noticed you weren't able to help your colleague this time, and she felt a little overwhelmed. You are saying something that the person did not do, but you're saying in a way that's supportive. How can I support both of you to grow together? The second example is a person who maybe came late for the meeting. And you didn't want to say, why are you always late? You're so lazy and irresponsible, because they'll never talk to you again, or they'll run away. And you could say, well, it would help if you came ready and prepared for the meeting so we can have a productive time. Driving people to the bigger meaning of what that action was all about helps the person to receive it better. So, strategy number 2, I see you, perspective taking. Now the final one I've left is the best one. It's been mentioned, but we're going to play a game. And that is focus on strengths. Now, is it easier to focus on somebody's areas for improvement or strengths? Let's take a poll. How many of you think that it is more natural for you to focus on someone's area of improvement or weakness? Yeah. Now, why does this happen? Yeah, we are humans. And in the past, if our ancestors had encountered a saber-toothed tiger, and they said, hey, kitty, kitty, they'll be gone. And so the human brain is wired to respond to threats. In the past, we have saber-toothed tigers. In this modern world, it is so many things. Exclusion is a threat, as was mentioned by our previous speaker. Right? Stagnation is a threat. Toxic environments is a threat. And the brain is then primed to respond because we have a negative bias. No matter sometimes how many good things are in front of us, we tend to look at what's not going well. So in order to counteract that, we need to focus on our strengths. So are you ready to play a game with me? Yes? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to divide this auditorium into 4 groups. I'll try my best. And for each group, I'm going to give you an animal. What to do about it? Just give me a few seconds. Let me divide the groups first. Let's take this row as group number 1. Can I have all group number 1 clap their hands so that I know where you are? Okay. All right. This group, I'm going to segment you down right where the projector is, right down the middle. Over on this side is group number 2. Can I have group number 2? Thank you. And this one is group number 3. All right, thank you. And this group over here, group number 4. Okay. So what's going to happen is I'm going to assign each of you an animal, and once all 4 animals are on the screen and you've been assigned, you're going to turn to the learning partner next to you, back to you. If you're alone, just take a few steps, say hello, and discuss what is the strength or what's good about this animal and what's not so good about this animal. Okay? And people get very excited about this discussion. I don't know why. They become very protective over their animals. But just a caveat before we begin, let's not fight about the animals. Can? Can, thank you. So row number 1, group number 1, I'm assigning you the eagle. Okay? Group number 2, I'm assigning you the turtle. Okay? Group number 3, I'm assigning you the lion. And group number 4, I'm assigning you the mouse. Now, you have 1 minute, and in that 1 minute, you are going to discuss what's good about the animal you've been assigned and what's maybe not so good about the animal you've been assigned. Okay, are you ready? Okay, 1 minute, turn to your partner. What's good and what's not so good? Good one? That's the good things about the mouse. Huh? Fast. Good. Okay, all right, your time's up. Okay, so I already feel like, how come I got this animal? People get very emotional about the animals, I can tell you. Huh? Okay, so we're going to start with the group that got assigned the eagle. Okay, I'm going to just walk down the aisle. I'm going to ask you, what is one thing good about the eagle first? Let's start with the row in front. What's one thing good about the eagle? Eagle eye, just spot the prey from far away. Okay, let's move down here. What's one thing good about the eagle?
It's monitoring everything.
It's monitoring everything. It will catch everything. Okay, how about here? One more good thing?
Very intelligent.
Intelligent. Now let's go on to what's not so great about the eagle. How about here? Sorry? A lot of pride?
Takes the opportunity.
Oh, it seizes the opportunity. That depends on how you look at that. How about here? One thing not so great. That's great, but what about not so great? Yeah, okay, so they want to go great. Strong, okay, how about what's not so great about the eagle? Sorry? It can hunt on the small eye. This group loves to look for the eagle's strengths. Let's give them a round of applause. Right? It is strong, it has an eagle eye, it's intelligent. In another group that I asked about the eagle, they told me that one not so good thing about the eagle is that it's bald. And I said, only the bald eagle is bald. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But they said it was. Okay, how about this group over here? What's great about the turtle? Yes, someone in front here. Sorry? It's fast in the water. How about here? Live very long, yes, outgrow me for sure. Outlive me. How about here? They can see colors. I'm learning something new today. They can see colors we can't see. What's not so great about the turtle? It's shy, knock on the shelf, go in. Okay, what else? What else? On land, it's slow. Okay, so let's give this group a round of applause for the turtles. Okay, now let's go to the lion. Okay, what's great about the lion? Strength. Oh, they're very excited. Leadership. Okay, what's that? Confidence. Sit down, a majestic lion. What about what's not so great about the lion? Delusional. I'm learning something. I've never heard a lion described that way. Very good. Okay, here? Too proud. Nose in there. Swag the tail only. Okay, what else here? What's not so great? Sorry? No mercy. Oh, cold, yeah? Confident but cold. Okay, let's give the group here a round of applause. Okay, last but not least, let's go to the mouse. What's great about the mouse? Yeah, agility. See, we learning agility. It can go into small little crevices, right? Smarter than just now the other animal. I sense some competition going on. Tom and Jerry. See, smarter than Tom and Jerry. What else is great about the mouse? Very fast. He can run away. Much faster than me. What's not so great about the mouse? Not so great. Sorry? What's that? I didn't hear. Is that good or bad? Depending on how you look at it, okay? What's not so great about the mouse? It can bite the wires and cause us a lot of problem. And generally, a mouse is known as a pest. Some people call it a pet, depending. Okay, let's give them this group a round of applause. So, why am I doing this? Not to pit a competition against each other, but for every animal, we can think of something that's good about them. We can also think about something that's not good about them. What matters, I guess, is the context that they're in. When you need to run and survive, the mouse is gonna do it all. Can hide in the crevice, nobody will see it. Where can we stuff the lion? Not quite sure. But when you want someone to hunt, let's bring out the lion. Every single one of the people that you work with have strengths and weaknesses. If we only focus on the weaknesses or the areas for improvement they can't do and forget to balance that up, then we're not taking a holistic picture of who they are. Learning how to deploy people according to their strengths is one of a very underutilized skill of leaders. We think that we need to continuously work on areas of improvement, and no doubt that's important, but people feel energized when they are affirmed. It starts with us being able to recognize the strength in them first. And recognizing it is not enough. Why? Because if we don't communicate it, maybe they won't know. Right? If Linda's leader, the second one, did not take time to check in on her, she might have assumed that it was the same response she was going to get. Affirmation. What do you observe? Next, acknowledgement. Give an explanation for your observation. So prior to being here, I was in the resorts. And I was working with some of the teams there, with their leadership team. And they shared with me this particular example of one of the receptionists who was at the front office and was having a guest who was speaking a different language. And they were really like chicken and duck talk. And because they were having chicken and duck talk, you can imagine the voices going higher and higher. Of course, the person at the front desk could not raise his voice beyond a certain level because he's not supposed to, and maintain calm. But the guest was frustrated. And what happened was my husband happened to be there. We understood what was happening because the guest was from China, and we did a translation, and the problem was resolved. But if I were the leader of that front desk manager, I would have said, you kept your calm when the guest was raising his voice, and you managed it. Eventually, you managed to sort it out, and you did not agitate the guest any further. This acknowledgement helps the person to connect the strength they have to the goals that they have. They're here to provide great service. And last of all, recognize. Sounds very similar, but let's connect that to the positive impact of what they are there to do. So if we can affirm, we can acknowledge, and we can recognize, then we truly can walk out of that office like Linda feeling fabulous, right? Recharge your organization through consistent, positive communication. I've highlighted those two words because being positive one time is not enough. But being consistently positive with your words can make a whole lot of difference. So I leave you with 3 points. 1, practice empathy. Let's say it together. I hear you.
I hear you.
Perspective taking. I see you. And last of all, focus on strengths. When you focus on strengths, it means that I believe in you. I believe in all of you because you have just spent an entire day here learning and growing together. Congratulations on a wonderful day, and thank you so much for having me here once again. Do stay in touch, connect with me on LinkedIn. I write a lot on leadership, on communication, mental health and well-being, and how to recharge organizations by using positive psychology. It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Sha-En. I think I speak for everyone when I say that we couldn't have had a more inspiring end to this fantastic day of learning.